Firstly, I started off 9 years ago with two Celtic crosses. 'Cause in the area here, there was an old Celtic monastery down in Arbo, and the Arbo cross was there. So a lot of people would go to visit it. So I sort of tried the idea of, I'd love to, make a replica of that and have something to sell to these people when they come here. So that's where it started off. I would go around, I would take a good look at the cross and have a good sketch of it and pick any wee different characteristic marks on it and make sure to have them in the cross. You'd have to put every bit of detail on it to get it rightly. And then I had plenty of experience at sculpturing, so it comes out far better and it comes out very real looking.
And what's the process then to get a mould from the wood?
Send it away to get a steel clamp made for pressurising the turf together. And to get it finished now, we'll have to get the turf and we'd get it kiln dried, have the turf dried out. Sometimes for the smaller items we'd have it dried up like pepper, and for the larger items we'd just pulp ordinary black turf up, bind it along with glue, and then it'd be compressed into steel clamps, and later it'd be sandpapered, then varnished.
What's your outlet in Ireland?
We have every airport selling our product. We have all the top stores like Blarney Wool Mills, Roaches, and the top gift shops in Ireland would be now carrying our product.
My special guest is well known to television viewers. He is, of course, broadcaster and journalist Noel Thompson.
I started off, did a university degree in political sciences and modern languages, left university not a notion what I was going to do, went to work for my brother who had a restaurant at that time in the West Indies, spent 2 years working in the restaurant, and during that time it kind of crystallised that journalism was what I would like to do, and I was then very fortunate. I got my first job, my first big break, working for what was the nationwide programme then. Remember Sue Lawley, Frank Boff, all those guys and gals, and I was a researcher in Belfast, and that was a job which required more common sense than journalistic skills, so it suited me perfectly at that stage, and it's been downhill from there on, really.
Hello, you're watching Newsline 6:30 with Noel Thompson and Donna Traynor. Good evening and welcome to this special edition of Hearts and Minds.
Well, you've been involved in a lot of series here in Northern Ireland. Tell me about the type of things you've been working on.
I've presented pretty much every news and current affairs radio and television programme there is in BBC Northern Ireland. Newsbreak, Good Morning Ulster, PM as it was then is now Evening Extra, and television spotlight. I've done most of the election coverage and the big set pieces in the last 4 or 5 years. So it's been a very varied career, and I love every minute of it.
Well, one thing you haven't talked about, Noel, is winning Broadcaster of the Year. That must have been a great buzz for you.
Yes, indeed. I was very fortunate. 2 years in a row, in fact, says he, giving a little puff. I won the Regional Presenter of the Year awarded by the Royal Television Society. And that is marvellous. I mean, for heaven's sake, to win it once was great, to win it twice was just unbelievable. And on both occasions it was very exciting. You go over to London, there's a big dinner in the Grosvenor House Hotel or something like that. All the great names of the industry are there. I can remember Bianca from EastEnders saying to me, "Congratulations," when I won it the first time. It's a cliche, but I always have to say it. I mean, one person wins it, but one person doesn't make a television programme, and it's a tribute to everyone who's involved in all the programmes I've been in, but it's on my mantelpiece.
Now you're a familiar face on the network. Breakfast news 1 day a week. Tell me, do you enjoy that, Noel?
It's marvellous because it's a break. I mean, Northern Ireland is a fascinating place to work and always has been, but it is one story and the variations on it. And what I like about my time in London is that it's a completely different world. Indeed, the whole world is there. 1 minute you can be talking to the Foreign Secretary about the Kosovo crisis, the next minute you're talking to some Australian politician about whatever's going on there. The whole world is there. And what I always say is it's marvellous because you can go for 2 whole hours on television without once mentioning decommissioning, which for me is pretty marvellous.
Well, Noel, do you have an interest in painting?
A great interest in painting, not as a practitioner of it, because I'm a completely useless drawer. I mean, I've never been able to draw. I did art at school, of course. At primary school was the last time I did it formally, and I used to come home with my little drawing book and try and do, you know, those mountain scenes that everyone draws when they're about 8 years old, these ever-unfolding mountain scenes. That was really as far as I got. And, I mean, it's a skill that I would always have loved to have, but have never really mastered.
I have a great scene in mind for you today, Noel. It's just further down this lane, and believe me, there are absolutely no mountains at all. It's a flat bogland scene, but very effective. And I would say by the end of today, you'll have a fair idea of the techniques involved in watercolour painting.
Well, Noel, this is the scene for today's painting. Now, I'll tell you, I've been out here many's a time, whenever the sun is shining, splitting the stones, really, and it looks like the outback in Australia.
Right.
Well, not today. What do you think of the scene?
Well, I like the trees, and I see what you mean about the Australian echoes. I mean, they're very like the sort of tall trees you get out in the outback. The undergrowth or the greenery, of course, is what you wouldn't find in Australia. It'd be much more brown there, but it looks a nice scene. Very boggish, very boggish. I see the bog cotton there, and
it's bog standard, by the way.
Bog standard, okay. And so will my drawing be, of course. And obviously some heathers and ferns and things. So there's a lot of different kinds of greenery and a lot of different shades of green.
Now, the first thing we're going to have to do is get a sketch down on the paper. But before we do that, I want to talk to you for a moment on working sizes. You'll find that most artists have a couple of working sizes. For example, this is a sheet of half imperial size watercolour paper. It's half the imperial size sheet. On the piece of paper we're going to be working on today is quarter imperial. Now, you usually find that when you're working on a subject like this, where we don't have a lot of structural detail, that we want to condense the scene as much as possible. So therefore I would prefer to work on the quarter imperial. So before we start, I'll hand the pencil over to yourself, and I want you to start along there, keeping about a third the way up the paper, so that we get that horizon line in, and we finish up with 2/3 sky, 1/3 foreground.
I know about that, the rule of thirds.
Okay. We're going to go on now and put in that sky. Now, it's a wee bit insipid today, so what we want to do is give it that Australian outback feeling.
I think you're absolutely right.
No kangaroos in sight.
Not a kangaroo in sight. Is that a wallaby? No.
I want to be.
It's a rabbit.
Right. This is a mixture of raw sienna and water in a very dilute mix, and this is for the sunlit area of cloud. Now, gently put that on. You see the way I'm going there? Not in a uniform way, but just nice and free-flowing to give that open sky area. Keep it towards the bottom more than the top. The sky recedes as it goes towards the horizon, so therefore it's going to be getting lighter. A bit more in this area. Now we're going to put in some warmth, and this is with crimson and ultramarine in a very reddish purple. And try and keep this to the underside.
It looks like it'll be completely wrong, but as soon as it goes down you see it.
Off you go. Now watch. Keep it on the underside, just cradling the bottom of the clouds and moving over to the right. That's fine. Now we must put on some blue sky. I'm just going to blend that out like that. The blue sky is cerulean blue with a touch of crimson. And this is where we shape the clouds. Look, we give the clouds shape. We're shaping the top of the clouds. Off you go. Move across nice and gently. We don't have to rub the paper very hard. Keep it, you see the way you're zigzagging?
Yes,
put it more like that. That's fine. Right across. Now we're going to a darker blue, and this is ultramarine with a touch of light red. There we are.
This is a real artistic license, you know, there's no blue out there at all.
Well, we can make blue if we wanted. Here you go, pull that across the top now. I'll just show you. Lean very, very lightly and pull down here and there, and go back up again. That's going to give us the cloud shapes. Now let's put some more colour in there. It's a wee bit dull at the moment. So I'm using light red with crimson and some ultramarine. Now this is to give some darker cloud shadows. Now this will look a bit strong at the beginning, look. Just try that. Very light.
And in the sort
of... Keep it broken and then come up in shape. You know, keep it irregular.
Right.
and fill out this area here, this area of white. That's it. Now let's take the excess paint off the brush and we just squeeze it between our finger and thumb, and then we can